final session of Metro Nashville Budget 101. We have spent since December talking through the various parts of the Metro budget, and we are excited tonight to be talking about participatory budgeting. Just to go back and give the big picture, we've talked about where the money comes from. The biggest chunk of that is property taxes. We talked about where the money goes. The biggest chunk of that is education, then public safety, debt service, and general government. And then we've spent various weeks talking about the actual operating budget, which is now beginning to be created for FY23. And tonight we will turn it over to, that's the budget schedule that we'll be going through in the next few weeks. And tonight, at February 24th, we are going to focus on a participatory budget, which is a process to come up with capital spending, which is different from the operating budget. It's the larger things that last for a longer period of time. And for the first time, we have created a process where the citizens themselves can participate in the process of determining how money is spent on the community around them. So I'm going to have two guests, my Vice Chair, Zulfat Sawara, and Fabian Bedney, former colleague in the council. So I will welcome Councilmember Sawara. These two mics work.
I think that, does that mic work? Oh. Well, then I'll just pass the, what is it called to you?
Do I get to sing?
No? Okay. We can sing. We can do a duet.
Okay.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks again for joining us. I'm very excited about what we're talking about today. Many of you know that I ran on participatory budgeting. And for those of you that have heard me speak about this for the last 2 years, I think some of you can actually repeat with me or say with me some of the things that I'm about to say, because I've said it so many times, because I really do believe in it. Our budget should be a moral budget. It's a moral document. And for the budget to be a moral document, it is critical that that budget addresses the issues that face the people. So where participatory budget comes in is that it actually a process that allows the citizens to help determine where money should be spent. In the last couple of years, the council has done a tremendous job, starting with the last two budget chairs and now the current chair, Chair Allen, where we actually have the citizens participate and look at our budget, educates them on the budget. I do a Facebook session where we look at the numbers. While the citizens are participating in these processes and being involved, this is now participatory budgeting. This is us just telling them how we're going to spend it or what we've done already. And actual participatory budgeting is where the money is assigned to the citizens, and the citizens themselves decide exactly where it should be spent on. Not the council, not the mayor's office. The citizen says, this is how we want to spend it. Participatory budgeting is not new. It's been tried in a couple of cities across the United States. Most of the projects are capital in nature, but you can also use participatory budgeting for operating budget issues. But most of the time, they use it for capital project. So I'm so excited after talking about it for a couple of years, and I know that former council member Fabian Bedney is also a champion of participatory budgeting. We was talking about this before I even came along, so which is great. And so for the first time last year, running into this year, the mayor's office decided to actually implement a participatory budget process in Nashville. Yay, congratulations. And so former Councilmember Bedney will now walk us through what Nashville has done, how we've been able to do our first ever participatory budgeting, and is also going to talk to us about, now we got the first one done, what are the lessons that we learned, how did that process work, and more importantly, what is our look into the future. Again, I'm so excited about this. I hope it's something that we can continue for a number of years in different parts of the city, because at the end of the day, it gives the citizens the power to know that they have a say in how their tax dollars are being spent. So at this point, I'm going to pass it on to my colleague and friend, former council member Fabian Bedney.
Thank you, council member. I appreciate the opportunity to come and share with you. Are my slides there?
Yes.
You have to get them on the little one. Rosie, can you?
While Councilmember Suara brings the slides I prepare, it is important that we go over the distinction between the capital improvements budget and participatory budgeting. The capital improvements budget is really the document that is done with the leadership of all the 40 council members in the city, who, as representatives of each one of the voters of the city, the residents of the city, they actually decide on what are the priorities, how to spend the money that is collected through our taxes. So they do have a tool to make decisions about big picture items, about things that are important to everyday life, from roads, sidewalks, schools, a number of things. They actually go through an exercise, which I think you guys are getting ready to start, right?
We've done our prioritization. We just turned it in.
So they just finished prioritizing how the city should use this money through their exercise with the capital improvements budget. And that is used by the mayor's office to submit a capital spending plan. So it is driven by the work done by the council members. Now, participatory budgeting is not there to compete with the capital improvements budget. It is there to put on the hands of the residents of a particular area, how to improve their local area on the small things. The big things are handled by the capital improvements budget. These are the small things, the things that drive you crazy, like, why isn't there a crosswalk in this place? Why is that why is that the sidewalk ends here and there is a missing piece of sidewalk? Why is that there is no playground in this park? I mean, all those are things that people want to see happen, but they are usually not the big picture items that get addressed by the capital improvements budget. So participatory budgeting was proposed by the mayor, and it was adopted by the council. It wouldn't have happened with their support, so I'm very thankful of the Metro Council's support, and also thankful that they actually approved it for a second cycle. So in Bordeaux, North Nashville, we just finished the first cycle. It was $2 million in that region. And we are going to start a second cycle, which is an additional $2 million. So over time, as this repeats, there is an accumulated number of money that it adds up to a significant value. So if you can go to the next slide.
Councilmember Suara, if you'll go to the big keyboard right there and hit the down button. Just use the down button on the big keyboard.
The down, this one. This one?
That should do it. All right. Go to the expert, Rosie.
So can we do this presentation?
So this is just a cover screen. One of the first exercises we did with the steering committee was to ask them, how do you want to name this process? And they chose to name it the Bordeaux North Nashville Participatory Budgeting. And naming is really important in terms of defining how everything will flow from it. Identity, the identity of that group as to what to do. On your screen now you see some explanation or attempt to explain what is participatory budgeting. And like I said before, this budget year, Nashville has allocated a second amount of $2 million to fund projects that cover a certain Bordeaux and North Nashville boundary. This is very important. To meet the basic criteria to be permissible, the projects need to meet the same guidelines that the capital spending plan follows. So you really cannot use the money to build a front porch for Councilmember Suara, or to buy a new car for Councilmember Allen, or for me to get a toupee or something to cover my head. Really, it has to be used on the right-of-way on property that is owned by Metro, be it a school, a fire station, a sidewalk, a street. It cannot be on private property. It cannot be in the form of a grant. It has to be something that the city is investing in, purchasing something that would last an amount of time. If it's something that is going to last just 1 year, it doesn't meet the eligibility. So there are all these guidelines that it has to follow. And the reason is because the funding comes from the capital spending plan. So it has to follow the same guidelines that the capital spending plan follows. funding, like I said, comes from the CSP, and I already went through that, so let's go to the next one. I don't know that this is going to work. This is a video that was made in New York City. Participatory budgeting is, hold on a second, participatory budgeting, like Councilmember Suarez said, thank you, is something that is being used hundreds and hundreds of times all over the world. I'll say over thousands of times. In New York was an early adopter, and so they put together this video, which I'm borrowing because it talks about the fundamentals. If it follows what you see on the screen, it's participatory budgeting. If it doesn't follow what you see on the screen, it's something else. So let's play the video. Thank you, Councilmember.
Participatory budgeting gives people real power over real money to make the decisions that affect their lives. First, people brainstorm ideas. They come together in neighborhood assemblies and think of what kinds of projects would they like to see in their neighborhood. Volunteers take people's initial ideas and turn them into real projects. And they bring them back to the public for a vote. The projects with the most votes get funded. They are then implemented over the next few years, and the following year, the process starts again.
So that's it. I mean, if it follows the structure you just saw on the screen, then it's participatory budgeting. If it doesn't follow this, then it's something else. And that is very important to emphasize, because people sometimes ask me, sorry. I struggle with this myself sometimes. There you go.
Okay.
People have asked me sometimes, why don't you do this, why don't you do that? And the idea is that for participatory budgeting to be a self-governing, community-driven effort, it has to follow that structure. If we start telling people what to do, if the mayor's office inserts itself and undermines what the steering committee is doing in creating guidelines and so forth, then it is something else. It is not participatory budgeting. So on this slide that I'm showing on the screen, it's a website we put together. By the way, all of you can go to pb.nashville.gov. It's a website we put together with information about the process, because we want you all to have as much information as possible. When you go to that site, if you click on a link, you'll get to this site where you can check and see if you reside within the region that we created for participatory budgeting. So when we started, we didn't know exactly what the region should be. We didn't want it to create a map because it will be arbitrary. So we decided to find existing maps, and we combined two maps. The north part, we use the Bordeaux Chamber of Commerce map that defines the boundaries of Bordeaux. And on the south, we use the Opportunity Zone North Nashville map. And so we combined these two, and that's how this map came to be. Yes, thank you. Project eligibility, it's very important. Like I said before, part of it is defined by federal law, by state law, by city law, by the charter. But part of it is also defined by the steering committee. The steering committee could, for example, say, this year we are going to spend money only on education. And so we are going to create a set of guidelines that emphasize or make eligible only projects that have to do with education. That's the prerogative that the steering committee has in creating the guidelines for the process. Like, they actually came up with guidelines for the process. For example, one of the guidelines that they put on the guideline book was that they wanted to local vendors to be able to build the things that people chose. So, part of my work in the mayor's office is to find ways to include local vendors in the process. So if any of you watching, it's a vendor that resides within the Bordeaux North Nashville region, please email me at pb@nashville.gov, and I will give you the information on how to register as a vendor with Metro. We are really interested in finding local vendors to take care of these projects. So next slide, please. This is very important. Like, we are now on the second cycle, on the 2022 cycle. And so this is the timeline that we roughly put together. Obviously, the steering committee is going to fine-tune this and decide, if this is an appropriate timeline, but I propose this to them, and then they get to decide what to do. On the first box on the left is PV rules. It doesn't mean that PV rules. It means the rules for PV.
I like it. Could be both.
Yeah. PV rules. So the idea is that the steering committee will work for many weeks in deciding what are the guidelines, what is the bylaws or the structure, or how the whole process will unfold. And so they will work for a number of weeks until they are comfortable with the guidelines. Once they are done with this and they adopt the guidelines, deciding things like project eligibility, the process, how voting will happen, the schedules, then they are done with the process, and then they go back to me and to the program facilitator in starting the idea collection period. At this point, we're very interested in listening and getting ideas from as many people as possible. On the first cycle, we got 400 ideas submitted by the community. I would like this cycle to get maybe 2,000 ideas, because the more ideas, the better the result. I mean, I saw some ideas that were wonderful, and the more ideas we get, the more of a chance of the process to be truly representative of the community. This process, we're giving it like 4 months to go, because we want to really go to every school, to every community center, to every living room or church, or whatever it takes to be able to get in front of people and get their ideas. Once the idea collection period is over, then comes the part where another group of delegates from the community, called budget delegates, start meeting for a period of time, and they will analyze these ideas and use the guidelines that were created by the steering committee. And in doing that, they're going to narrow down these thousands of ideas into a ballot. The ballot last year had 24 items. This year may have 24 or 25. It will be up to them. And so this ballot will be a number of ideas that came from the community that they feel that can be put in front of the voters to decide. Last year, the budget delegates worked really hard on finding items both in Bordeaux and North Nashville of a variety of ways and interests, and addressing a variety of things. But then the voters went to vote, and they decided what was a priority for them. But they had 24 choices to do it. And out of the 24 choices, 8 got the most votes, enough to use the $2 million. So when the budget delegates are done and the ballot is issued, then voting starts. And that we're looking to October. That way it doesn't go into the holidays. And so we are going to, depending on what the steering committee tells us, we are going to implement whatever process they put in front of us. If they want to do it like last year, we're going to use Hub Nashville for people to vote. And then we're also going to put ballot boxes around the region so people can either drop in a vote or send us a letter with the vote inside. Once that voting is done, then we'll announce the result of the vote. And then it'll be up to us in the mayor's office to implement it. And that's what I'm working right now, is trying to implement the process following the guidelines set out by the steering committee. Here is a diagram of how everything works. On the top left, we have the most important people, who are the residents. To the right of it, we have the volunteers that are actually implementing the process, and the Metro staff that is helping provide the know-how on these things. Metro staff, for example, provides budgeting, provides numbers. Like in some cases, I'll give you an example, Councilmember Suara. Last year, somebody had proposed that we replace the net on a golf course, I think, because apparently people were hitting the ball and it was going into the neighborhoods. So we asked for a price of it, and it was over $1 million. I think it was a huge number, and the budget delegates were shocked at the cost of it. I think it was more like $2 million. So they decided not to put it on the ballot, because the maximum that something can be is $2 million, because that's the budget allocated. Yeah. So if something is more than $2 million, it cannot be an eligible item. We at the mayor's office help administer the program, and help also review proposals for eligibility, and we do a lot to help the process along, but we don't run it. We are here to assist the community in their process. You all at the Metro Council are the ones that reviewed and approved the CSP amount. You also had a resolution that endorsed the rule book that was created, the guidelines that were created by the steering committee. And then if needs be, in this case there was no need, but if it needs be, you guys may create legislation to support any of the items that won if they require legislation. For example, let's say the community decided they wanted to buy a piece of land to put a park, that would require council legislation. And at the bottom you see the steering committee, which we are aiming this year to have 21 members, and to create also subcommittees. Some of them want to be on outreach, some of them want to help identify vendors from the community, and some of it want to get involved with the voting process. So those are the different opportunities, but there may be more. The steering committee, like I said, is a self-contained. They run their own committee, and they decide whatever they want to decide. They're in charge. Here is more detail on the different opportunities for people to participate. They can be on the steering committee, they can be budget delegates, they can be committee facilitators. Committee facilitator can be anybody from Nashville. It doesn't have to be somebody that is local, because they don't really make decisions about what gets built. They are there to support the process. So if anybody is listening is interested, email me at pb@nashville.gov, and I get you connected. And then there is a need for logistics. Now, why are we working with volunteers? That's the way it works. That's the way PB works, because it's a locally driven, self-governed process. And so if we were to start inserting Metro employees in the process, it will delegitimize the process. So for it to be a process that is community-driven, the community needs to be making the decisions, supporting the process, running the process, and we are there to support what they are doing. The idea collection, like I said before, for me is the most fun part of it, is when we go into a community and listen to them and get their ideas, things that they would like to see improve or changed. These are some pictures that I took when we were doing a transportation plan, but it's basically the same idea. It's very close to what a public hearing, where you will, or a zoning meeting, where you will go and engage with Metro employees and provide your ideas, and engage with, the steering committee members, and give your ideas. What you see on the screen right now is the ballot that people use to vote, the ones that chose to vote on paper. From last year 500 people voted, actually a little bit more, but people that voted that didn't live in the area were not admitted. This is something the steering committee evaluated everything and decided that they will only accept votes from residents. So we had the opportunity to vote online. 200 people voted online using Hub Nashville. 300 people voted in person. They came to either Hadley Park or the Bordeaux Library, and they put a vote on the voting box. And then some people actually mailed in their ballots. And so each ballot item had a description, they had a budget, and they had a name and a box that they could mark. People got to only vote for 5 items. If somebody voted for more, very few people did, then their vote was eliminated. And the objective, like I said, the steering committee was very adamant that the guidelines had to be followed evenly with everybody. Anybody that was 14 years old or older could vote if they reside within the community.
And the projects have different amounts, like this one is 3,000 and
yeah,
like that.
So there were different values for each project, and then the steering committee also decided to put it on the guidelines that we had to add another 10% to the budget that was provided by the departments, because they were very concerned that there was enough of a contingency to address the issue of inflation. So what you see here is the number that was provided by the department plus a 10%. This is what people will see when they were voting using Hub Nashville. And like I said, 200 people used it. We used it also to collect ideas from people, but also for people to vote. Here are pictures of the last year's process. We had many meetings. The meetings were all public. We announced them with the help of the Metro Council. We put them on the Metro Council calendar for people to see. Anybody listening is welcome to come and watch the proceedings. The meetings are not open for people to speak, but they are open for people to come in and witness the process. Now, I know that, for example, the steering committee is interested in having a public hearing soon. They have the right. If they want to have a public hearing, they can do it. But it's not part of the process. Is for them to engage in a conversation about it. Then on top, you have a picture of a resident of Hadley Park voting. At the bottom, you have a combination of steering committee members and budget delegates, and also Kia Harmon, who was the program facilitator and did an excellent job leading the process in a very tough time with the middle of COVID. And on the right, you have the volunteers that came forward to count the votes. Like, again, we at the mayor's office didn't want to count the votes because it had to be done by residents, and we had about 15 residents that came forward here in the council, and they just went through the whole process, checked that everybody lived within the region, and then they counted the votes. I'm showing here a list of all the people that participated last year. On the left are the steering committee members. On the right are the budget delegates. They are really the heroes of this process. They work really hard, and I'm very thankful and proud of the work they did. The next slide, you can see the results of the cycle. And everything is sorted by the things that got the most votes. So, for example, the Bordeaux Gardens, Playground, and Pavilion, you see you got 190 votes, and to the right you see the budget for it. To the right, you will see that there are 8 items. The top 6 items met the $2 million, but if we went to the next item, it will go over $2 million, so it couldn't be used. But the steering committee had created a guideline that if that were to happen, they will go down the list until they found an item that could be added without going over the $2 million. So they chose the landscape upgrade on Hartman Park, and then also the Buchanan Art District signage. And so that's how they did it. Now, later on, as I was working in implementation, Metro Parks indicated to me that they are going to fund the Lewis Center air conditioner out of their own budget. So that released $192,500 from that to be used on some other items. And so that's a welcome thing because it adds another item that can be funded out of the participatory budgeting process. Next, please. To the left, you see again the list of the items that were selected by the community. And to the right, there is an update on where things are. For example, on the Hartman Park projects, there are 3. The outdoor bathroom facility, Parks is doing site inspections to ascertain if there is any additional work that needs to do to connect the bathroom with the sidewalks and meet ADA guidelines. But also, they need to hire an architect because that is the type of thing you need when you do a bathroom. Codes require that you have an architect involved. So that was actually something that it was included on the budget of the $551,000. So it's already taken care of in the budget. The playground, same story. They need to do a site inspection to decide on ADA. The landscape upgrade is a small project. People in that part of the city, they don't want to have a lot of landscaping inside the park because they are concerned about safety, but they wanted to improve the outside of the park, and that's what's going to likely be done when weather permits by the Metro Park staff. The Lewis Center, like I said before, Parks is funding it, so I will still keep you all updated, but it is no longer part of PV. It's now being funded directly by Parks. The Bordeaux Gardens, same story about ADA, and they are doing an inspection. Bordeaux Hills, that's the speed bumps over there. NDOT has already placed a purchase order for the speed cushions, and they are in the process of getting estimates to build it. So by the end of March, they should have the estimates, and they should be able to start. So I'm very excited. That likely will be one of the first projects that gets done. The bus shelters, I talked to WIGO today, and they have identified areas in the region that can use bus shelters, and they have already placed an order to buy the bus shelters because it takes a long lead time. And when it comes to the Buchanan Art District, we received an email from a resident asking the steering committee to review the subject. So the steering committee is setting up a subcommittee to talk about it. Next.
Now, the bus shelters,
Yes.
on that particular one, will they fund it up to whatever this amount covers, the 300,000?
Yeah.
So WIGO will determine whether it's going to be 6 or 7 and where it will be around the district.
Yeah, the steering committee, the budget delegates really wanted to do something about bus shelters, but there wasn't enough information to ascertain where to put them. So they decided to allocate a line budget for it, and they decided to put it on the hands of the WIGO people to do that, and then come back with a recommendation for locations.
That's great. So on
But
the
clearly,
one
that part of the community really needs bus shelters, and they got 129 votes, so that tells you out of 500, that's a significant thing.
So on the Luby Center gym, the 192,000, and I thought I'd be asking the questions now.
Councilmember Suarez, can you speak into the microphone?
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. So on the Luby Center, the 192, would you have to go back and look at the ones that get the next vote in order to be able to, the money that is saved from there? Is that how that will be
If you go to the
decided?
next slide, I talk exactly about that.
All right, thank you.
So the 2021 Bordeaux North National Participatory Budget Steering Committee has oversight and decision-making role on the implementation on the process. And that's what it reads on the guidelines. They decided that they are going to stay involved until all the bids for the winning projects are in. That means that all these projects you see here, the 8 projects, excluding the Luby Center, once all the bids are in, then we will know a hard cost for all these projects. When that happens, they will know if they came below budget or above budget, and they will know what's the balance that remains on the fund. So at that point, the steering committee they will follow their guidelines and look at the next items with more votes and decide to fund those projects.
I like that.
So they can also suspend the rules and do it in a different way, but this is a steering committee, from my point of view, that they are stickler for the rules. They just want to follow the rules big time.
and I like the fact that all the decisions revert back to the steering committee.
Absolutely.
Which is what makes it a participatory budget.
I'm telling you, council member, I try really hard not to give them any advice because the mayor wants to work with this group. The mayor wants to support the group. They want them to be the ones making the decisions. So I'm just following up on that, not trying to influence the process at all. This is my last slide. I'm sure people are happy that I'm done. And I like to show this slide because when we talk about infrastructure, people picture big, expensive, fancy things, right? But the things that drive people crazy are those things every day, like a missing crosswalk, a missing traffic light, a missing bus shelter or a bike lane or a planter or a trash can or a sign. These things matter to people. It has an impact on their safety, on their quality of life, street lights. There's all things that are within the reach of the people that submit ideas and vote on those ideas. So please, when we open the idea collection period, please submit as many ideas as you can. That will help the budget delegates come up with a really good ballot that then you can go on and vote for.
Thank you so much. I have 2 quick questions, and then I'll see if Chair Allen has any question, if we have any question from the audience. The first one is with regards to your steering committee. You are 21 people that did an amazing job in the first round. Come the next round, would you have to start the process all over again, or do you keep the same set of people? In the same vein, when you're looking at the process of how this works, the steering committee did come up with the rules on how they want to do things, and it seems as if they did a great job, and they have all this down. So I know that the process starts in March, and it includes setting up the rules. Would that first phase be repeated again, or now that we have a guideline, something that we've tried, do we go straight to that?
I like your question a lot. So the first thing I did is I asked each steering committee member if they were inclined to do it again. And 9 of them told me yes. And then the others told me that they enjoyed it, but they rather step aside. And some of them really were not happy, and they told me that they rather didn't want to do it. But I think the majority wanted to stay. And so and these were people that became part of the steering committee because they were recommended by the local council members. And so I took that very seriously, and actually it was really good. I mean, the steering committee members, like I said, they did a great job. But then I went on and asked, I did what many cities do, is that you open it up to people to sign up. And so we put out information on social media asking people, if you're interested in being part of the steering committee, use this link and sign up to be part of it. And so I've been calling, and I spend some time with every person that is eager to volunteer and give his time. I feel responsible to spend at least half an hour with them, explain the process, tell them the time commitment, and make sure that they know what they're getting into, because I really respect their time. I don't want them to be doing something that they didn't realize it will be cumbersome. So that answers the first question, I hope. Like,
yes, it does.
Part of the committee will be people that are returning. Part of the committee will be people that signed up using the online link that you can find at pb.nashville.gov. There is a link there to sign up to be part of the process. The second question was about the guidelines. And so what we're going to do on the second cycle is I'm going to say, these are the guidelines that were created by the steering committee last year. Is there anything you want to change? So I'm going to give it to them.
Giving it to them to make the decision.
Yes, and so if they want to keep it as is, then they'll be done in 2 meetings. If they want to make changes, it might take longer. So in my timeline, I gave it 3 months, but if it only takes a month, that's great, because then we have more time for idea collection, for the other steps. So it's really up to the steering committee to decide.
I like that. I like that. Chair Allen, do we have questions?
Thank you. There are a few questions from our faithful audience. Are the best of ideas that don't make it into the funding round, are those archived for future reconsideration?
Yes. As a matter of fact, we have all the ideas that people submitted, the 400, and they're going to be posted on the website. Now, a lot of those ideas didn't meet eligibility, and that's why they were not considered. For example, some ideas were asking us to make a donation to a nonprofit. Well, that is not permissible under the guidelines. Some ideas were not clear enough, and so it was hard for the budget delegates to know what to do with them. But there were some ideas that were really clear and precise and specific, and so the steering committee was able to use them. So now, with the new process, the idea, thing starts all over again, and we want people to submit ideas because what we want to do this time around is provide information so people can submit ideas that are really eligible. And so we are going to create opportunities for people to come and engage with Metro departments and learn about how the capital spending plan works and what makes ideas eligible. That way, people have a better chance to get their ideas to be considered.
So before she asks the next question, so on the ones that are on the ballot, but did not get enough votes, right? But they're good idea, they meet the eligibility criteria, they did not get enough votes. Do we put them back in the pool, or do people have to resubmit them again?
It's up to the steering committee.
I love that answer. I love that
Good answer.
answer.
I
That
really-
is the best answer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the steering committee is going to want to do. My suspicion is they're going to want to start from scratch with the budget delegates, because that gives the budget delegates an opportunity to create a better variety of ballot items for people to choose. And also, things change every year. And so there may be new things that people want to address. So it's really up to the steering committee. I'm just there to help them.
Good answer. Another question, does Metro help pursue grants or additional funding beyond the $2 million?
Funny you should ask. I'm actually talking with the Housing Fund to see if they will apply for a grant to help fund some of the items that you see on the ballot. This was a first year process, and obviously we were learning how to do things. My dream will be to find ways to fund each one of the items, even with other types of funding. So anybody watching this, if you work at a big corporation that wants to step in and help fund this, the people in the community spoke very clear that they want these things to be built, and they have the support of the voters in the region. So yes, it is open for the funding from other sources. But as far as Metro goes, and this is what the council approved and the mayor proposed, there are $2 million from the capital spending plan to fund items in the ballot.
And this is a question from me as the chair. So for this next year going forward, we're looking at the same $2 million and the same North Nashville, Bordeaux area. Long-term, is there the possibility or the thought of expanding to other areas or moving on to other areas? How do we see this playing out in the future?
So I'm just speaking for myself. In my imagination, I would like to see other regions created around the city that really could use this process. Maybe Antioch or the northeast of the city or the west of the city. This is, again, this type of sidewalks or traffic lights or whatever are things that people would like to see fixed in other parts of the city. So I'm hoping that over time we'll be able to expand it. But right now, I can tell you that it has been approved for this year, and I'm hoping that we can propose it again for next year, for 2023. And the way the budget works in Nashville, you can only do 1 year at a time. There isn't really a way to do a multi-year plan unless you have a dedicated funding source or something like that. Did I answer your question?
Yes, that was very helpful.
And let me add that I do concur with Fabienne. I think what I would like to see is it moving around to other part of the city as well. And I think we've also had a conversation about hopefully sometime in the future we have a dedicated funding source for this that make it continuous. One of the things that worries me sometimes when we have great ideas that comes from a mayor is that when the mayor's term is over, another mayor comes and that mayor does not pick up on the same idea, we lose some of these great things. So, but if it is something that we have set that can survive or beyond a mayor's term, I think it would be great for the city. For me also, what makes participatory budgeting something so crucial, we're fixing the sidewalks, we're fixing the shelters. We may get to fix the shelters, we may get to fix the sidewalk. The council may pick it up at some point, but what makes it so exciting and make it so important is that the citizens are involved in the decision making. And this is how we build trust and cooperation between the government and the people. And I think it's important that we continue to do this type of project.
And the mayor is excited and committed to this. He tells me all the time he loves to see the community come forward and make decisions about their community. So he's on board with this, and I'm happy that he is.
That's great.
That he got it started.
Logistical question: with all the time that the participatory budgeting, I think I'm asking this question right, the members of the committee put in, is there any thought of compensating any of them for their time?
Well, it's the same that the Planning Commission or the Board of Zoning Appeals. I mean, the Historic Commission, the many commissions around the city where people give a huge amount of time to improve their community, and they do it on a volunteer basis. This is the same, and one of the reasons that we don't really want to pay people is because then they will be beholden to Metro. I mean, this is an independent entity that is making decisions about their community, and we want them to be as independent as possible in doing the self-governing process. But yes, this committee has the same rules and follows the same guidelines of any other commission or board that is serving Metro.
Thank you. Good answer. And then one final question, and I'll throw this out to anybody in the room. Does Metro have a menu of how much things like trash cans cost? Anybody know the answer to that one? I have thoughts.
Well, yes, there is a menu, but I don't know it. But part of the process of PB, when we get to the budget delegate process, so the budget delegates will start asking me, how much does a trash can cost? How much does a shelter cost? And so my role is to be a conduit with the Metro departments. And so I will ask the Metro departments, and they will provide back the latest cost of purchase and installation of these items. One thing I forgot to mention before that is an important thing with the capital spending plan. Any item we add for people to vote, it has to be an item that doesn't require the city to use operating budget funding. So for example, something that somebody proposed is they wanted a small clinic in North Nashville. Well, if you build a clinic, you also need to hire the nurses and the doctors and the staff, which comes out of the operating budget. So that immediately becomes a non-eligible item. So although it's a great idea, it just doesn't meet the guidelines of the capital spending plan.
Makes sense. Thank you. That is all my questions. Vice Chair, can you think of any other questions you would like to ask? Are there any further from our audience? So just to remind us, the next thing that's happening with your next second cycle is that the steering committee is meeting and going through the rules. That's where
yeah, the first thing the steering committee will do is likely on the second week of March, they will get a legal and finance training by our finance and legal department. We want them to understand the boundaries of the Sunshine Law, for example, because they don't get to talk to each other about the process unless it's in a public advertised meeting or the people can actually participate and watch. So we want to give them a training, and then after the training, they'll have the first meeting. It'll likely be on the third week of March. And at that meeting, the members will get started. They will choose a new chair, a new vice chair, a new secretary. That does change on every cycle. And once they choose their leadership, they will get to work.
Great. Very good. Well, thank you all so much for this explanation. I want to wrap this up just by, I want to acknowledge Vice Chair Suara, and then I'll wrap it up.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, for the recognition. I wanted to say that once we get the mayor's budget and we have the actual numbers, I will be starting my Facebook budget conversations. And the first conversation will be on May 14. And my first guest will be Councilmember Bob Mendes. He usually comes in and dissects the mayor's budget for us and look at the numbers and look at what's different from last year. And we can take all the education that we've had throughout this series because we've been doing with the Budget 101, educating you on how things work. Now that we have, when we have an actual numbers, then we start looking at it and start having some conversations. So there will be information going out, but if you are interested in following the conversations on the budget, you can join me on Facebook on May 14. I will get the information out as soon as I have them. But thank you all so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. And another input process. I'm working with the vice mayor to create a possibility for a public comment period on the budget in general before the budget actually comes out, with the hope that that those comments can then be incorporated in the mayor's process of putting the budget together, rather than having having him not be aware of comments that people are making as he's putting his budget together. So that date will be announced at a council meeting very soon, and what that process will look like. But we welcome through many means input from the general public on what our budget is. As Councilmember Suarez has so eloquently said, it is a moral document. It puts into actuality what our priorities are and where we're putting our money where our mouth is. So we want to hear from the citizens what's important to you. There are, as we talked about last week, there are certain things that are baked in that we really don't have much flexibility in. We have to pay the bills for the lights and the people who are picking up trash, mowing our parks and those types of things. But there are places where we can establish what our priorities are, and we want to hear from people what those are. So stay tuned to the council announcements for when we will be having that public comment period. And the very beginning of May, officially May 1, but that's a Sunday, is when the mayor's budget will come out, and that's when we'll have an actual document to work with. So up till then, it's important to provide your feedback and your input to your council members and to the mayor's office. And former Councilmember Bedney is a good person to, I think, communicate anything you want to get through to the mayor's office. So with that, I thank the people who have watched this live, and hopefully there are lots of folks who will also be tuning in as we get close to the budget to just learn more about what this process is. Mr. Bedney.
Yeah, I wanted to tell the people who are watching, even if you're watching this as a recording, if you have follow-up questions, email me at pb@nashville.gov or call the mayor's office and ask them to put you through with me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about the process. I won't answer personal questions about Councilmember Suarez because I don't want to get in trouble. But about PB, I'm happy to talk about it. Thank you.
Safe
Thank you,
enough.
Chair.
All
Thank
right.
you, Vice Chair.
Thank you. I thank everyone, and I want to acknowledge Roseanne Hayes, who has been our faithful technical support in all of these meetings, usually doing 2 meetings at the same time. So this would not have happened without her or without the great folks in the IT booth who we never see, but we know they're there and they do a fantastic job. So with that, we are adjourned. Come back and join us for other council meetings.
Thank you. Great job.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.